Welcome to this OSTC podcast series. If you stand still, you die. A discussion about AI, trading, and how we keep our edge. My name is Emily Oler, and I'll be your host. I have two special guests joining me for this 5-part series. Rose Lucken, a professor at University College London and founder of Educate Ventures. Joining her is Chris Jenkins, co-head of ZISHI. In this first episode, we will discuss artificial intelligence and how ZISHI Adaptive was born. Stay tuned after our discussion to hear more about what's coming up for episode 2. But first, I'd love to give our guests a chance to introduce themselves. Over to you, Rose.
Thank you very much, Emily. I'm Rose Lucken. I'm a professor at University College London Knowledge Lab. I have a background in artificial intelligence, in particular, the way that it's applied and the implications it brings for education and training. I'm also the founder of a small business called Educate Ventures, and we're particularly interested in helping all businesses to use their data and to leverage artificial intelligence to create the best, most effective businesses they can be.
Wonderful. That sounds absolutely amazing. And AI is what brings us here today. So Chris, I'd love to hear a little bit about you, your background, and how you got into adaptive and AI, and how you got Rose to join the team on this. And then we'll go into discussing a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, sure. So obviously I'm Chris Jenkins, and this is my 10th year now with OSTC. I started down in our Swansea office as a trader down there, and from then became one of the managers down there with Ryan Orton and Hannah. And following that, I went over to Spain to head up the Iberia side of the business. And since then, I came back around 2015. I've been focusing on the education side of OSTC, which has now become the education and technology side, really, which is now known as ZISHI. And within Adaptive, what we focus on is working with obviously the talented people from University College London and Rose's team to harness the power of AI and machine learning into key areas of our business.
That's amazing. So we're here really to talk about adaptive. Tell us about adaptive. What is adaptive within the ZISHI canon?
Well, it makes sense to really, first of all, think about what's the main purpose of ZISHI first and foremost as a whole, and that is to make OSTC a bigger, better and safer environment to work for us all, for traders, for back office staff. And what Adaptive really is looking at focusing on is helping us improve key areas of our business that we have traditionally been very good at, which is, finding and nurturing talent, mentoring traders, and also training future generations of traders. Now, but one thing I think we're also very good at is recognizing that we can always improve on that. And what we're looking to do, and what we have been doing with Rose and her team, is developing technology that really helps with those three key areas to improve on our ability to carry out those activities.
Wonderful, wonderful. Rose, can you tell us a little bit more about how you got brought into Adaptive and how you sort of see your technology working together and how it can actually benefit the traders and the OSTC group?
Yeah, sure. It was very interesting when Chris and I first met. The conversation was very much about how you could use artificial intelligence to support traders through their training, but we weren't really exactly sure how that was going to manifest itself. And then over time, we got to know the business at OSTC and in particular at ZISHI much better, and realized that actually probably there were various different ways in which artificial intelligence techniques could be used to improve the business. Of course, in terms of looking at traders, making sure you recruit the traders who are the most suitable for your business and the ones who are likely to be successful, helping in that recruitment process, and then very much helping to mentor those traders. And that also, of course, helps the office managers as well who are doing the mentoring. So helping both mentoring and mentees through the use of artificial intelligence techniques. But primarily to start off with, we were looking at helping ZISHI understand the data that already existed within OSTC so that they could build more accurate profiles and a better understanding of the traders who worked in the business and the trainees.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, AI sort of conjures up many different images for people. And I think it's probably one of the more misunderstood technologies as we're moving forward. I mean, you see it in movies, sort of in artificial intelligence taking over. What really is the sort of artificial intelligence that we're using at OSTC, and how would you describe it to somebody who had never heard about AI before, who maybe doesn't really understand what goes into it?
Good question. Yes, there's a lot of misinformation out there about artificial intelligence or the reality of artificial intelligence. There's lots of Hollywood images of AI taking over, as you say. I think, firstly, it's important to make clear the difference between the sort of artificial intelligence that's available to us now, which is what you would call narrow artificial intelligence, the sort of artificial intelligence that can play a game like chess or Go, the sort of artificial intelligence that can be used for autonomous driving in cars. But the AI that drives the car can't also play chess. And the computer that plays chess can't also drive a car or diagnose an illness if we're looking at medical applications. So there's a difference between that narrow AI we have now and the sort of Hollywood image of the artificial general intelligence, where you have artificial intelligence that has the sort of repertoire that you would expect from a human. So we don't have that yet. What we're looking at is narrow artificial intelligence. And so when you're thinking about how it can help in any training business, then you're thinking about the process of training, but also the activity that the person you've trained does when they finish that training. So in this instance, trading. I think another important thing to think about with artificial intelligence is that artificial intelligence is only as useful as it is today because there are two other ingredients that it uses. And that is lots of data that's collected all the time as we interact in the world, but particularly when we're interacting through technologies. And then very smart algorithms that process that data. And they rely also on having enough computing power and memory. And we have those three ingredients now that, for example, when I was doing my degree in artificial intelligence many years ago, we certainly didn't have the computing power and we didn't have the quantity of data. We did have some smart algorithms. So it's interesting how things have developed. So we can use artificial intelligence, particularly machine learning, to process data so that we can understand what that data is telling us about, for example, human behavior. So about the way a trader is performing, for example. Right. And then there's the other aspect of artificial intelligence, which is the way in which it can help us to make decisions. And so in the work that we're doing with ZISHI, that's not decisions about trading. Right. It might be decisions about how to support a trader or how best to recruit a trader. But it's important to see the decision-making part of artificial intelligence as something where there's always a human in the loop, right, where it's always a joint enterprise. So it's decision support as much as decision-making.
Amazing. So, I mean, Chris, Adaptive was really born from a need to sort of understand our traders and understand our business. We had data. How are we collecting new data now still to this day? And why is that important?
Yeah, well, I mean, just to go back one step before I come to that, and just to add to what Rose was just saying there, a real key kind of principle of ZISHI and the way we use, way we are deploying AI is that we always are looking to augment our human capability and not replace anyone, if that makes sense. So, with the tools that we've deployed to help identify future traders, is to help hiring managers, to help office managers, and to help HR pick people who are statistically, more likely to succeed, or at least have an insight into who these individuals are and how they might behave and markets they might like to trade and all of those good things, but not to make final decisions on who we should hire, and not to have an entirely automated process. And similarly with the mentoring tool that we're creating at the moment to help both trader and office managers, it's exactly the same principle. That human in the loop is a vital thing for us from an ethical standpoint as well. And very much. Like you said, the depictions of AI and the actual realities of AI can be somewhat very, very different. Now, coming on to the data side of things, we at OSTC, I think, we're very lucky in a way, in that we work in an industry that requires us to collect and store vast amounts of data for regulatory purposes. So if you think on the trading side of things, pretty much down to every click of the mouse is recorded by a trader. That a trader does, and that's hugely valuable for us, not for figuring out people's different trading strategies or anything like that, but actually looking at the behavioral traits that we have as an organization, how we interact with the markets, and actually what can we deduce from that data about the types of traders that we have here when we're just purely looking at what I would call hard data, which is the trading side of things. But I think it's fair to say that the one thing that we perhaps have not been so good at collecting is the softer side, so more on the personality side of data. And so we went through a process of trying to build that data up by sending out various tasks for traders to do to contribute towards this project. But also now as part of the HR team's new recruitment process, they collect this type of data at source. But again, I'm sure Rose will want to talk about it. There's this being data orientated and having this AI mindset is half the battle. And I think we at OSTC, we're sat on this huge amount of data that we really weren't using to our advantage in terms of what it comes back to, like I said, is using it to help us create technology that we can deploy to help OSTC as a group, but also help the individual traders and office managers. And that's essentially what this is about, is making sure that we can give every single person, every trader, every trader effectively, the best possible chance of succeeding with us as a business. That's really what this comes down to. And I think making use of that data and understanding that data through the eyes of Rose and her team has been actually quite a revelation, to be honest.
Fantastic. I mean, this is the first episode of many, and we're going to get way more in depth into data and the data sets in another episode. So people who are interested should definitely stay tuned for that. What I really want to talk about now is sort of how it benefits us, but who are the partners that we work with, and how can it benefit them as well? Because we see it as a very internal project right now, but this has huge external implications. So I'd love to hear a little bit more from both of you on what those external implications are and what we can look forward to with those.
Well, in terms of partners at the moment, really the partners are Rose and her team at Educate Ventures. But the way we think about this technology for us is thinking, well, if it can work for us, then it can work for other firms out there who are also interested in this type of information about maybe their clients or their traders, and not only just within the world of trading, but if you take our mentoring tool, for example, it's being designed so that it can first and foremost help our own traders and our own office managers, but the way that we are using AI with this is that it could be deployed with other industries. So, again, what's really important for ZISHI is one, to again support the growth of the markets business, but also to make sure that it is self-supporting and can generate its revenues on its own. And that comes from looking to deploy our technology with other firms inside and outside of the business, inside of the industry. Sorry, it's finding that best route to deploy our technology with other firms that in no way is to the detriment of our own business.
I think one of the things that's becoming clearer as the world of AI technology evolves within the workplace is that the addition of, as Chris said, the soft skills and looking at data that can tell you things about people, their personalities, their characteristics, their preferences, their motivations, their self-understanding, lots of different features. Once you start to bring that into your data, then you really can start to think about quite broad aspects of what the way in which AI can help in the workplace. So things like workplace culture can be something that you can start thinking about in new ways. And that's obviously beneficial to a company like OSTC, but can also be beneficial to other partners within financial services and beyond. And just one other point I would say, not about the detail of the data, because I know that we're going to be looking at that in future podcasts, but this growing agreement amongst people working within artificial intelligence applied in businesses, that actually it's the data and the understanding of the data that you have and the data that you could collect and the quality of that data and the way that your understanding of your business can help you identify the ways in which your data and therefore AI can help you to leverage your workforce to the best possible ability. And that's obviously good for individual workers and it's good for the business. So whilst there's lots of excitement about amazing new algorithms, we hear a lot about deep learning and these kind of things. To be honest, in practical applications, it's much more important to have the right data and the right understanding of your data and the right reason for using AI that comes with that increased understanding of how your data can be used to improve your business. So it's a little bit chicken and egg as you move forward, but it's very interesting to see how there are many different ways in which AI can help a business to become much more effective.
It's absolutely incredible. It really seems in this sort of digital age that data is everything. Data is key. So by understanding data, we can understand ourselves, we can understand our business, we can keep our edge, maintain our edge, and move forward.
That's true, Emily. But they talk about data being the new oil. And I think that's true. But just like oil, data is crude. And until you work out how to clean it and process it, and you understand what it is you want that data to help you do, it's useless. So it's that kind of turning point that certainly ZISHI has made in turning that data into something of great value. It was valuable before, but even more valuable now because it's been cleaned and processed in new ways.
Absolutely fantastic. I think that's a sort of a good ending point, because our next episode is going to be all about data and how we use it and sort of fascinating things about data. So we'll definitely save that for the next episode, which I'm really looking forward to getting into and understanding more about it. Rose and Chris, thank you once again for joining me today. And for all of our listeners, please join us for the next episode, where we will be discussing the value of data, how it relates to AI, challenging what we know and how we grow, understanding the makeup of our business and yours. Once again, I'm Emily Oler, and this was If You Stand Still, You Die, an OSTC podcast series.